na fi yakwa sorry wo nti me sorry anopa no na me bom pae na sa adwumi bai nyansa buagwa nyankopon a ohunu akira de ye ne nne na orinya yemu na ne nsam na yewo nyame de sa adwumi ma me na me bo ho pae na awia yekohunu osofo asomani ene nana ene sa elder oto nsafre me na minim se asore yi sha ase no bonia onam won so asomafo of won so edikan ba kono no osofo asomani na minim se ne nana no timi koye a o kan nasem ye se ne ye nkochia ne maame enti ekokochia ne maame a ono ye osomafo asomani no ne ba na obo me sania okotena maame obonche ofre ne ewura obo no obo me ho amania na eniema oyeye na fe niema osofu makio ba ho a oku ti okasa niema ne kire me no mo bo me across history na me hu se eno ho dwum pepepe ene nyame di ka de maame.
And you?
I'm fine, thank you, by God's grace.
Praise God for that.
It's an honor to have you here in the studio.
You are most welcome.
Your first time being here at GH1 TV?
That's right.
Okay,
yes.
And we are happy to have you.
All right.
And we're looking forward to having a wonderful conversation. And today the focus on our conversation has actually got to do with witchcraft and how that plays out in our cultural setting and how that dovetails into religion and the role that religion has played in propagating superstitious beliefs and the belief of witchcraft and how that has impacted us, even negatively, to lead to things that we see in our society, like what happened very recently that everybody is condemning, that the president is even condemning the lynching of that 90-year-old woman. Through no fault of hers, she was declared as a witch by a soothsayer or a fetish priestess. And unfortunately, she lost her life. And it's something that one would believe in the 21st century we shouldn't be seeing. But unfortunately, we get violence and spiritual beliefs. And even witchcraft beliefs are deeply rooted in our culture, so much so that today it influences our lifestyle through accusations and fear behind witchcraft. Accusations against women and violence are common when it comes to the issue of witchcraft and superstition. And today we want to really get into it and understand the role that the church has played in all of this and even what we are seeing today. And that is why Apostle is in the studio today. Great to have you once again.
Oh, but thank you.
Let me begin by asking you a very simple question.
Mm-hmm.
What is witchcraft?
Yeah, many people would like to find out what witchcraft is. And when you ask somebody that, are you a witch? The person will say no.
Yeah.
No, so it has been the belief, and listening to the belief that some people have some supernatural power to be able to kill others, to be able to affect the lives of others, to be able to cause the failures of others. That is people's belief. And they even think that even those witches can eat people, they can drink blood and those sort of things. So it's a belief system within people's mind.
A belief system?
Yeah.
Is it real?
Yeah, many
is this
people
something
say,
that exists?
Yeah. Often I wouldn't like to just come and say that witchcraft is real or not, unless I've taken you through a process until we come to the end. But most of the things that people are saying are all superstitious. Most of them. You take it that over 95% of what they are saying are all superstitious. When I was conducting a research on witchcraft, sorcery, and exorcism, what I realized is that whenever I was told a story, I would follow the story up to the end. Before getting to the end, about 95% of what I heard were all additions. The main issue would not be as I was informed initially. Yeah, and I think that has worsened the superstitious aspect of witchcraft that people bring out. Because when someone hears something, the person will not take time to examine it. But once he or she hears from one person, he picks it up and then begin to spread it. And that is the difficulty that we are having with our belief of witchcraft.
Yes.
I will even say that now the concept that we are having now is actually not witchcraft.
What is it?
It's what I call witch demonology. It's a combination of the beliefs of witchcraft and demonology. You know, demonology was the aspect that came from the West. And what was prevailing as a term was witchcraft. But because of the advent of Christianity in Ghana and many places, a demonology aspect came from the West to us. So we've picked part of demonology, added it to part of our witchcraft, and combined the two. And that is the practices that is going on today.
So spirits exist, witches exist. Is that the case?
No, I'm not considering witchcraft as spirit. I'm not. Witchcraft is supposed to be an inherent power. You see, when we are talking of spirit, demons are considered as spirit. Demonology is considered as something that comes from spirit. A demon that inhabits somebody, a spirit that can come and dwell in somebody, and sometimes leave the person for some time. When it comes to traditional religion, where a spirit takes possession of, let's say, someone, a man or a woman, the spirit is supposed to be an outside entity that comes to dwell in a person and can go. And that is why sometimes when it comes to traditional religion and the priest would like to perform, they would have to sing to inspire the priest until the spirit takes possession. So when the spirit is not there, the priest cannot perform. But when it comes to witchcraft, it is supposed, and let me put that word, supposed to be an inherent power, not something that comes from outside to dwell in a person, but inherent power. That is why traditionally, initially, the real traditional priest, you know, when it comes to traditional priests, what others call fetishism, fetish priest, the concept too has changed. Initially, we had the traditional priest who knew herbs and who could heal diseases and other things. One British researcher called Margaret Field said that she examined the traditional priest, and she said that from her perspective, they could heal witchcraft or witches. By that, she was saying that she thought some people were somehow sick, and those sickness could be associated with witchcraft, like somebody who was having a mental challenge, mental problem. And she thought that those priests could heal them. You know, so traditional priests initially knew herbs and they could heal. But then we also had others coming from the neighboring countries that infiltrated Ghana, and they also brought their type of traditional priest, their type of, as I said, priesthood. And when they came around, they are the people who said they could actually exorcise, or if I put it in the Ghanaian, we catch witches. And when they brought that concept, it really affected our tradition. And that brought about, let's hunt for a witch. Initially, that wasn't how it was done at all. Yeah, the character of a person may cause that person to be accused of witchcraft.
So what are those characters, or what are those attributes that are associated with witchcraft that we see people and we say that this person is a witch or that person is a witch?
Initially, someone may be accused of witchcraft if the person, for instance, saw a young boy playing and said that you are a very bad boy, you are going to break your legs, and then they realize that indeed the leg has been broken. Maybe another person is a pregnant woman, and then the person comes in and said that you are not going to give birth, you are going to abort, and then it happens. And maybe chatting with let's say the uncle or somebody in the house and say, oh, you are penny bunny, you are a very bad man. When you go to the farm, maybe the tree will fall on you. And then a tree falls on that person. You know, when something like this happens, then they will say that, no, this man or this woman has a very bad spirit in her or in him, she could be a witch. And the person will be summoned to the palace. So initially it was the chief who was dealing with witchcraft. And then they would have to examine, the chief and his people will have to examine the character and the issues, the accusation. And when the person was found guilty, then they will give the person a firebrand. Ibetuja, ashen in sem. Put the firebrand in his hand or her hand, and ask the person to leave the village. The person will not be killed. The person will not be killed.
Ask the person to leave the village.
The village. In Chi, they will say Yechawasu. So the person will leave the village. If it was something that was minor and not a major one, as I've said, and they thought that the person was a witch, then the person would be referred to a traditional priest. And then the priest will mix herbs and try to heal that person. And they had a word saying that they will be able to minimize the powers of the witch. You cut the nails. You pluck the feathers so that that person could not function again. So that was their belief at that time. But then when it changed, and I say neighboring fetish came in, then they began to mix their beliefs with our system, and they started hunting for witches and claim to exercise witchcraft. That brought what we are seeing today.
Is that something that is peculiar only to us here in Ghana, only to us here in Africa, or even the world over? We had this phenomenon of accusations of witchcraft and the belief in witchcraft existing.
It's not only in Ghana, it is very strong in Africa. In fact, until recently, what has just happened, I thought that the concept had minimized in Ghana, but in other parts of Africa, some of them continue to hunt for witches and kill them, which is very bad. Then it came to the West. It was very strong in the West in the 14th, 15th, 16th century. These things became very, very powerful in the West, and they also began hunting for witches. But what caused them to stop is that some people were accused of witchcraft. Those people were executed. Then later, they began that they made a mistake, and the accusations leveled against them were not true. No, and these things helped them gradually, and then they had to abandon that belief system.
No. This brings me back to my question because of the precedent that you have given of whether or not it is real. These beliefs that people have because of certain things that they've seen. For example, you mentioned if someone says you're a bad person, when you go to the bush, a tree will fall on you, and something like that happens, then they begin to believe that this person really is a witch or has a certain spirit. Is it real, or is it just coincidence that some of these things happen, or is it just our superstitious beliefs?
Yeah, as I said, there are many superstitions on witchcraft. Many of the things that they claim are not true. Many of these things are very, very evil. But within humanity, you see, if you do something against another person, whether the person is a Christian or not, whether the person is a Muslim or not, if the person, for instance, does something good for you, and you begin to attack that person, and the person said, "Oh, are you the person who has done this thing against me?" Despite all the things that I've said, there is something within human being we call soul. Once the person is really offended and wish you evil, something evil may happen to you.
Really?
That is why, you see, that is why the Bible is saying that children should obey their fathers, their parents, so that they will live long. You know, because parents have brought you up. And if you do not respect them and you do something that really affects your father or mother, and the mother says, kweku, something evil may happen to you.
Really?
So there is the soul within people are powerful. Powerful in the sense that everybody. Now I'm talking of I'm making it generic. So if you do something like that, and it becomes often wishing people like that, then people begin to accuse others of witchcraft. So this aspect is there. But I as I said, I would have liked a very enough time to build theories and practices until I come to that realization is whether there is witchcraft or there is not witchcraft. And what is
working towards the disbandment of alleged witches camps in Ghana, Lamnato Adam, Executive Director of Songtaba, an NGO, issued a 3-day ultimatum to the police to arrest the perpetrators.
We call on law enforcement agencies to effect the arrest and prosecute the perpetrators in this inhuman act. CSOs in Ghana are giving the police a 3-day ultimatum to effect the arrest, since the faces of these perpetrators are very visible in the videos. It is rather unfortunate also that perpetrators in this dastardly act is heard to be praising God, saying Allahu Akbar. Violence has never been part of Islamic teachings and will never be so.